From Lagos, Nigeria, this is News Central. I'm Felicity Ezewike. The top stories tonight. Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima joins world leaders to push for a $29 trillion economy for Africa by 2025. Nigeria's Minister of Power clears the air on 8 billion naira budget allocations as fund meant for provision of protective technology. Gabon fixes presidential election for April 12th as the Central African country hopes to end military rule.
Business. Central Bank of Nigeria predicts robust 4.17% GDP growth in 2025.
And in sports, all is now set for the 56th edition of the Molade Okoya Thomas Table Tennis Cup, which will become a national competition.
Tonight begins now. Thank you for joining us. Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima has reiterated Nigeria's readiness to spearhead AfCFTA African Continental Free Trade Area while taking advantage of the market potential of the sector for economic integration of the continent. He joined other world leaders to push for the full implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area with a target to boost Africa's economy to $29 trillion by 2050. This is just as the president of the ongoing World Economic Forum, Boz Brende, pointed out the transformative potential of the agreement, projecting that its full implementation could boost Africa's economy to $29 trillion by 2050. The vice president and other global leaders declared their nations' positions at a forum of friends at the summit in Davos, Switzerland. The World Trade Organization, WTO, has called for calm, warning that any retaliatory trade wars sparked by U.S. President Donald Trump's threats of tariffs could have devastating effects on global economic growth. This statement was made during a town hall session at the ongoing World Economic Forum. News Center's business correspondent, Perpetua Fasomi Peter, has more details.
The return of Donald Trump to the White House has generated intense debates at the Davos 2025 conference, particularly regarding geopolitical issues, global trade, and more specifically, tariffs.
Tariffs can be inflationary, as I just said. They can appreciate the exchange rate. So they have other consequences that we need to be very mindful of.
It does not have any good lessons in this regard when there was last time some kind of fall towards protectionism and global economic fragmentation, which was in early 1930s. This was one of the factors contributing to the Great Recession.
The town hall session titled Debating Tariffs moved the conversation around several key questions. One of the main topics discussed was whether tariffs are necessary to boost domestic production and if they will help increase manufacturing in the United States.
I truly don't believe we're going to have tariffs against Mexico and Canada, maybe some. It's leverage.
Classical economics, the tariff only works in very specific conditions. You have your infancy industries, you want them to grow up, you're ready, and who they right, you do tariff, protect this particular sector. When you grow up, you cut your tariff. That's okay, but general tariff will never, ever boost the economy or bring manufacturing back.
This view aligns with the WTO Director General's comments urging member countries not to overreact in response to these trade tensions.
If we have tit-for-tat retaliation, whether it's 25%, tariff 60%, and we go to where we were in the 1930s, we're going to see double-digit global GDP losses. Second, if we just do not quite tit-for-tat, but even a version of that, let's say we break into two trading blocks and, we're not trading across the world, and we layer in trade policy uncertainty. We've done that work too. We're going to lose 6.4% of real global GDP.
To further ease tensions and encourage member countries to adhere to trade rules, WTO Director General Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala expressed that she was encouraged by President Trump's decision to postpone tariffs on imports from countries like Canada and Mexico, as he rather opted to launch investigations into trade practices. And as the world awaits the outcome of these investigations, it is hoped that the outcome will not be inimical to global trade and economic growth. In Lagos, for News Central, I am Perpetua Fasami Peter.
Dr. Muda Yusuf is the Chief Executive Officer, Center for Promotion of Private Enterprise and former Director General of the Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry. He joins me now to speak on the position of the WTO chief at the ongoing World Economic Forum. Thank you for joining us tonight. What are the key factors driving these trade tensions, and how can they be resolved through diplomacy? Is that an option, really?
Well, with President Trump, I don't think that is an option. Because Trump came to power based on a particular set of promises. And one of the key promises was that he was going to impose tariffs, particularly on China, and later he extended it to Europe and Canada. So it is going to be extremely difficult to persuade him not to go that route. And knowing the kind of person he is, he acts with very deep convictions about such policy measures. So he's likely to do it, and he has the belief that it's going to, boost American economy, it's going to create more jobs in America and all of that. Now the WTO is appealing that there should be no retaliatory action. There is no way there's not going to be a retaliatory action. That is the nature of diplomacy. It's tit for tat. So we cannot avoid it. What we are likely to see is that we are going to see a new realignment of trading partners, investment partners, business partners globally, either bilaterally or multilaterally.
I take it then that you don't buy into Okonjo-Iweala's advice that there shouldn't be a tit for tat. That is not, if the U.S. goes ahead with the tariffs, there would be a retaliation. Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. I mean, how do you convince a country on whose, that has been imposed on a very strong tariff on its own export to U.S. not to retaliate? It's going to be extremely difficult. So since he has made that pronouncement during his campaign, each country, each trading partner already have their own strategies on how to deal with the outcomes of that policy action once it takes effect.
But Doctor, how effective...
So clearly there will be...
sorry to interject. I just wanted to find out how effective are tariffs as a tool for achieving trade policy objectives, and what are the potential risks and unintended consequences?
Well, it can be effective in terms of the fact that it will localize consumption. In other words, most of the consumption within a country will now be things that are produced locally. But the flip side is that it's going to be inflationary. Because sometimes most of the things you import are things that you cannot produce at a much cheaper cost. So the advantage of international trade is that it comes from countries that have competitive and comparative advantage. In other words, your citizens will have the benefit of cheaper imports. But if you slam tariffs on them, then your citizens will have to pay more, because whatever you produce is likely to be more expensive, whatever you import is likely to be more expensive, and that will impose a lot of burden on the citizens, in addition to the retaliatory actions that will kick in as a result of that. Because no country is an island. There's interdependence of countries. So if a country decides to isolate itself, then the country must be ready to pay the price for it. That is what I think will happen.
What can international organizations like the WTO do in helping to resolve some of these trade wars?
You see, America is too big for anybody to control. That is the reality. We have seen evidence of that with the UN. We have seen evidence of that with what is happening in the Middle East. America is too big to control. It's even more so when you have a president like Trump. Nobody can control him unless he sees the consequences of his own action. And there is some internal opposition to it within America. That is when he can change. The WTO cannot dictate to President Trump or dictate to America. It cannot happen. It will not happen. I doubt it. And because it is a campaign issue, he would like to ensure that he delivers on the campaign promise.
What are your biggest fear with this trade war and how it might affect the global balance of power and the relationship between major economies like the US, China, and the EU?
No, it's going to lead to fragmentation of global economy. There'll be fragmentation, and when you have fragmentation of economies, it creates inefficiency problems. It increases costs across the world. It also disrupts the supply chains globally, something similar to what we had during COVID. These are some of the likely consequences. Another possible consequence is that countries around the world may decide to isolate US. Because if the US feels that it's so big and it's so powerful and it's just reckoning with any other country, then there's also the risk of isolation.
Dr. Yusuf, I doubt very much that is a possibility that the US will be isolated. I do hope it doesn't get to that. But of course, we'll see what happens. Thank you very much for speaking with us.
Thank you much.
Minister of Power, Adebayo Adelabu, has cleared the air on the allocation of 8 billion naira in the ministry's 2025 budget, saying it is for the provision of technology to protect power infrastructure. Adelabu was responding to media reports that the ministry plans to spend 8 billion naira on electricity bill sensitization. In a statement on Thursday, Bolaji Tunji, special advisor to the Minister on Strategic Communication and Media Relations, Adelabu said the amount is specifically meant for advocacy, education, enlightenment, and provision of technology to protect power infrastructure. According to the minister, the budgeted amount is meant to sensitize Nigerians on the need to show patriotism in their attitude and conduct towards national assets, especially power infrastructure. Coming up on the news tonight, police rescue abducted wife of retired Assistant Inspector General of Police Hakeem Odumosu. We have details after the break. Stay with us. Thank you for staying with us. Let's bring you a quick recap of our top stories. Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima joins world leaders to push for a $29 trillion economy for Africa by 2025. Nigeria's Minister of Power clears the air on 8 billion naira budget allocation, says fund meant for provision of protective technology. In Gabon, fixes presidential election for April 12th as the Central African country hopes to end military rule. Let's tell you that police operatives in Ogun State have killed the kidnappers of Folashade Odumosu, the wife of retired Assistant Inspector General of Police Hakeem Odumosu, rescuing her and recovering the ransom used as bait. Police spokesperson Olumuyiwa Adejobi disclosed this in a statement posted on X on Thursday, saying the Inspector General of Police, Kayode Egbetokun, was satisfied with the outcome of the rescue mission. Odumosu was abducted last week at the entrance of her residence. Her abductors demanded a 40 million naira ransom. The kidnappers intercepted her vehicle and took her through a swampy area to an unknown location. The Court of Appeal in Akure, Ondo State, has upheld the death sentence of prominent hotelier Ramon Adedoyin, who was found guilty of murdering Timothy Adegoke, a former master's student at the Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife. The court had reserved its ruling on October 29, 2024, but on Thursday affirmed the earlier judgment of the Osun State High Court, which sentenced Adedoyin to death. In its summary, the appellate court stated that the judgment of the High Court of Osun State stands. Adedoyin's appeal is dismissed in part. The Court of Appeal held that Adedoyin was properly convicted and sentenced to death. The Nigeria Police Force says that more than 300 kidnapped victims have been rescued this year, while 100 suspects have been arrested. The police, during a parade of suspects in Nigeria's capital, Abuja, says that it arrested 100 suspects for alleged murder, including several others for armed robbery and rape since the beginning of the year. Correspondent Idong Joseph has more on this.
Among the items displayed are 61 AK-47 rifles, 4 single-barrel rifles, several rounds of ammunition of various calibers, stamps, assorted drugs, and various forged documents associated with 13 suspects. According to the police, these individuals were arrested for crimes ranging from fraud, armed robbery, criminal conspiracy, and impersonation.
The duo were arrested for the offense of corporate fraud of 300 million naira only. Efforts to recover the stolen funds from the suspects proved futile as investigation reveals that most of the funds had been diverted to their personal accounts and were used for expensive gambling.
Also arrested is a 4-member gang alleged to be involved in armed robbery, primarily operating in Lagos and Ogun states. Additionally, one Yewu Suleiman, whose gang leader is currently at large and is being accused of kidnapping and armed robbery, including terrorizing the Zaria-Kano highway, was also paraded.
The suspect confessed to being part of a notorious armed robbery gang, known for mostly operating in several communities in Lagos and Ogun states. They further confessed that they majorly steal motorcycles owned by farmers.
The police said that it also arrested Mohammed Kabir, a resident of the Federal Capital Territory in Abuja, and 2 others for impersonation and criminal conspiracy, and another suspect accused of forgery.
So where are their uniforms? Okay. The suspects specialize in buying goods, mostly medical equipment and phones, using fake alerts.
This latest round of arrests and recoveries bring the total number of arrested suspects to 179 for armed robbery, 100 for kidnapping, 152 for murder, 34 for illegal possession of firearms, 77 for rape, and 110 suspected courtists. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
Residents of Agum Bukuma community in Degema local government area, Rivers State, are still reeling from the devastating fire caused by a crude oil spill. The disaster has left the community in distress, with 4 casualties reportedly recorded. News Central's Austin Azu visited the scene and filed this report.
Behind me is the impact of the fire at Zion City, a satellite community in Bukuma, Rivers State. People have lost their houses, people have lost their economic lives, and of course you can still see the ravaging fire from the oil wellhead that is still ravaging to this moment.
This place, as you can see, these are where fishermen, farmers settled.
Residents of Bukuma are struggling to cope with the aftermath of a massive fire which has ravaged homes and livelihoods. The traditional ruler of Agum Bukuma Kingdom, Walami Akim X, said the crude oil spill began on 21st December 2024 and escalated into a fire that engulfed parts of his kingdom. He provided an updated casualty count from the tragedy.
The 3 local governments in Calabar is affected. Bukuma is the worst because they are where the oil well is existing. 4 have died.
Survivors also shared their harrowing experiences and appealed for urgent assistance to help them rebuild their lives.
So both aquatic and terrestrial life is altered. Wells are polluted. The atmosphere, the troposphere is charged with hydrocarbon. We have cases of cough, amnesia, and different kinds of skin irritation.
Government go pay the house because now them do this, you know. The fire connect for our place there, so they find to pack the things them. At the I bring out the things. They cannot the fire already ran me half of my leg. Now they are what take run. Our things them born, I leave the things they run. Everything born finish.
It's for the government to come in and effect whatever things that they think should be done for the people as it ought to be.
The Director General of the National Oil Spill Detention and Response Agency alleged third-party involvement in the disaster following a site visit and comprehensive assessment of its causes with stakeholders and specialized personnel. But this environmentalist is calling for immediate compensation and remediation to tackle the ongoing fire and its environmental consequences.
It is so insensitive for someone in government to come out to say compensation will not be paid. Communities do not have the power to secure oil infrastructure. That belongs to government and the company. If you fail in your duty, then you should bear the consequences of whatever the outcome is.
The fire, which has raged for over 3 weeks, has devastated aquatic life, destroyed farmland, and contaminated the community's only source of drinking water. In Bukuma, Rivers State for News Central, I'm Austin Azu.
Thank you, Austin. President Bola Tinubu has inaugurated a newly constructed barracks in the Asokoro area of Abuja. The Bola Ahmed Tinubu Barracks comprises 16 major general quarters, 34 brigadier general quarters, 60 major general flats, and 60 lieutenant captain flats. It also includes 180 senior non-commissioned officer flats, 264 flats for personnel on the rank of corporal and below, worship centers, sports facilities, and a powerhouse. Speaking after the inauguration on Thursday, Olufemi Oluyede, Chief of Army Staff, said the barracks was named after Tinubu to, in his words, give honor to whom honor is due.
To honor the unbroken spirit and dedication of the men and women who serve our great nation. Thank you for that unbroken spirit. Thank you for what you have been doing for the country to keep us safe and building our confidence for a respectable, peaceful Nigeria. On this occasion, we open a new chapter in our nation's commitment to ensuring the safety and security of our people. For all you, the officers, leaders, men and women of armed forces, I stand here to say thank you.
The African Association of Fake News Fighters has lauded News Central for its unwavering dedication to combating fake news in Nigeria through transparent and ethical journalism. During a courtesy visit to News Central, the station's managing director, Kayode Akintemi, reaffirmed the organization's commitment to tackling misinformation, describing it as a growing threat to Nigeria's progress and stability. The association's president commended News Central's leadership for promoting ethical reporting and presented an award to Mr. Akintemi in recognition of the station's effort in addressing the challenges of misinformation.
As you know, the only enemy to truth, to news, is fake news. And then the medium that is needed to do that, one, we need the power of music. And of course, we have released an album called Fake News, of which we expected News Central to do justice to that, so that the larger society can also understand how fake news is, how deadly it is, and what they can do with us to get rid of it in society. We recorded a huge success when we put together a symposium in Lagos, where we have all the credible structures, all the stakeholders. When I say all the stakeholders, the NUJ was in attendance. And of course, the NUT was in attendance. The leadership of NSC was also in attendance. And of course, the AIG and the IG, of course, they were also in attendance of that program, and religious bodies were also in attendance. It cut across all the structures that we have that make up Nigeria.
That we will continue to hold the fort. We will continue to do the work that is required to fight against fake news, because it's one of the most challenging problems we have in the world, not even in Nigeria alone, in the entire universe today. So we are happy that we have the platform, we have the opportunity, and we have the commitment to be against fake news. So we make sure that as an organization, we will never carry it.
Still ahead on the news, UK teenagers sentenced to life in custody for the murder of 3 young girls in a stabbing spree last year. Details when we come back. Do stay with us. Key stakeholders in Plateau State have been urged to build on the peace achieved so far and to focus on improving these successes for the greater development of the state. These were the parting words of the General Officer commanding 3 Armored Division and Commander of Operation Safe Haven, Major General Abdusalam Abubakar, during an expanded stakeholders engagement marking the end of his tenure. My colleague Tizoba Anyowe reports.
Violence in various forms has plagued Plateau State for over 2 decades. What now stands out is the challenge of ensuring the sustainability of the relative peace recently achieved. Statistics show that between 2001 and 2024, over 4,000 lives were lost, while more than 800 people sustained injuries in incidents related to ethno-religious tensions, local government election crises, farmers' herders clashes, and other violent attacks. Speaking at the event themed Consolidation on the Security Gains for Harmonious Coexistence in 2025, outgoing GOC Major General Abdusalam Abubakar emphasized the importance of sustaining peace in the state.
It is imperative to sustain the collective efforts against insecurity, as these social criminalities will boomerang if left unchecked.
I will ensure I put in my all to ensure that what my predecessor has achieved in office will be sustained, improved upon, and indeed be the final solution to peace in the plateau.
Stakeholders highlighted key issues, including land grabbing, as areas requiring urgent attention to further cement peace in the region.
There is an implementation committee that the GOC set up, but we have not really seen the result of what we signed 2022.
There are strangers, there are strange faces. Maybe those are the people that are causing the problem.
The incoming GOC should make every effort to resettle our people in their communities.
The event was emotional for many stakeholders who praised the accomplishments of the outgoing GOC, Major General Abdusalam Abubakar.
He did well. It's because of his own work that we have peace in Plateau.
We really appreciate it. Sir, you are a leader, and a leader in it.
I salute the gallant, the seasoned, a security icon on the plateau.
Governor Caleb Mutfwang represented at the event, along with the first ever commander of Operation Safe Haven and other key state actors, emphasized the need for lasting peace on the plateau.
The government of the state, as it is composed within, is not too given to a lot of stakeholders, meetings like this one.
It's not the number of soldiers they put in your locality that will bring you peace. It is we that will give ourselves to peace.
It's an collaboration that we've been talking about and teaching in NDC for so many years. I've seen it work very well in Plateau. Community security relations is one area in which we do a lot of work.
As this event draws to a close, one would expect that the experiences shared here today will bring about a more peaceful Plateau, which everyone craves for. In Jos, Plateau State for News Central, I am Chizoba Aniowe.
Glad you're still with us. Let's go over to other parts of Africa now. Gabon has announced that it will hold April 12 for its presidential elections, ending the military rule that began with a coup in 2023. The announcement was made following a meeting of the Council of Ministers, which confirmed the scheduling of the exercise. In November, Gabon voted yes in a referendum on a new constitution, delivering on a promise by the military coup leaders to take steps towards restoring constitutional rule. The new constitution provides for a maximum of 2 7-year presidential terms, no prime minister, and no dynastic transfer of power. However, some observers fear that the ruling military government may use the process to retain power. A British judge has sentenced a UK teenager to life in custody for the murder of 3 young girls in a stabbing spree last year that sparked the country's worst riots in over a decade. Judge Julian Goose told the court in Liverpool that it is highly likely that the knife attacker will never be released. The families of children killed and wounded by the teenager in a UK knife rampage wept in court Thursday as they relieved the chilling details of the attack on a girls' dance class. After his arrest, police found violent content on Axel Ruka-Dubana's devices, including images of dead bodies, victims of torture, beheadings, cartoons depicting killing, violence and rape, which resulted or mocked different religions.
I'm sure that Rudy Cabana had a settled and determined intention to carry out these offences, and that had he been able to, he would have killed each and every child, all 26 of them, as well as any adults who got in his way. It was only because some managed to escape that prevented many more from being murdered. He was arrested, taken into custody, and whilst Rudy Cabana did not say anything in his police interviews, he did make unsolicited comments which are deeply disturbing, including, quote, "I'm glad to see those kids are dead. It makes me happy," close quote, and, quote, "It's a good thing those children are dead."
Let's now join my colleague Adebola for today's business stories. Adebola, the CBN is projecting a GDP of 4.17% for Nigeria in 2025. That's up from 3.36% of 2024. How realistic do you think this is?
Well, yes, indeed. Nigeria's central bank is predicting a GDP of 4.17%, from the previous GDP. And this, they say, is driven by government reforms. I'll tell you details shortly. Stay tuned.
Business news in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
Nigeria's central bank forecasts 4.17% GDP growth in 2025, driven by government reforms and stabilizing oil production. Governor Olayemi Cardoso attributes these growth to President Bola Tinubu's reforms, which include scrapping a petrol subsidy and devaluing the naira currency. However, inflation, which is currently at 34.8%, is expected to decline as reforms yield results. The Apex Bank governor adds that foreign exchange reserves have surpassed $40 billion, driven by increased oil production. The central bank aims to maintain price stability and bolster market confidence, supporting economic development and SME growth. Now, the CBN believes the forecast suggests a positive outlook for Nigeria's economy. Kenya's currency, the shillings, maintained its value against the US dollar on Thursday, thanks to a steady influx of remittances from abroad. Despite a lack of demand for foreign exchange, the shillings remained stable, traders reported. Earlier today, the exchange rate hovered between 129.10 and 129.60 per dollar, barely changing from the previous day's closing rate of 129.5 and 129.65 per dollar. This stability suggests that the market is balanced, with neither buyers nor sellers exerting significant pressure on the currency. The steady remittance flows have helped to support the shillings, offsetting the muted demand for foreign exchange, providing a sense of stability in the market. Global stocks steadied on Thursday as a rally fueled by Donald Trump's spending plans for artificial intelligence infrastructure. Fizzle and caution set in over what the new U.S. president's next moves on trade might be. Now, weekly data show the number of Americans filing for unemployment benefits rose a little more than expected in the most recent week, which dented the dollar and lifted stocks as it showed the labor market is strong. In Europe, the Stoxx 600, which hit a record high on Wednesday, edged up 0.3% as some selling pressure abated on technology. And this has soared after Trump announced a $500 billion private sector AI infrastructure investment plan. On Asian markets overnight, Japan's Nikkei gained 0.8% shares in SoftBank, and this jumped by 5%. That does it on Business News Tonight.
Business News in association with Money Master PSB, the easy way to master your money.
The 56th edition of the Molade Okoye Thomas Table Tennis Competition is here, and I'm told it is set to become a national event. Udoka, that sounds fantastic.
Very, very true. Of course, I'm talking about the young players who don the tennis court right there at Indoor Sports Hall of the Molade Okoye Table Tennis Court, and we look forward to it and to see how these players will get to perform, especially knowing that it is the 56th edition, and we have players who have won this tournament for 9 times. I'll give you details shortly.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
Now, Nigeria's longest running sports tournament, the Molade Okoye Thomas Table Tennis Cup, is making history in its 56th edition as it expands to become a national event for the first time since its inception in 1968. Now, this year's edition is particularly special as it marks the 10th anniversary of the passing of its founder, Molade Okoye Thomas. The event will run from the 27th of January to the 1st of February, with over 300 players from 31 states competing in 13 events featuring a range of categories, including singles, doubles, mixed doubles, para, deaf, and veteran sports. Now, veteran umpire John Peters, who has been part of the tournament since 1972, reflected on how the competition has grown and evolved over the decades.
This year, we have a record number, 355 players in one tournament. It has never happened in Nigeria. And because we have also brought in the para players and deaf players, particularly the deaf, they don't have too many tournaments. So they are all very, very happy that they're going to take part in a national tournament this time around. What it has done to Lagos State, after having participated in 55 editions, a lot of the players that took part from Lagos State have become national umpires, national players. Some of them have transited outside Nigeria and have become champions in their various places. So the same effect that it has had on Lagos State players is going to have the same with national players. So if, for example, the next couple of champions are not from Lagos again, it means the advantages that Lagos State players had will now be over to the new national champions.
In football, Aba Adam grabbed the brace as Kano Pillars defeated Enyimba 2-0 in a rescheduled Nigeria Premier Football League match on match day 14 encounter at the Sani Abacha Stadium on Thursday. Usman Abdullah's side made a bright start but had to wait until 36 minutes before scoring the first goal through Adam. Now, Adam bagged his brace 18 minutes from time. Enyimba, who suffered their first defeat in 10 league outings, have now failed to score in their last 5 visits to Kano. With the win, Kano Pillars moved to 7th position in the table, while Enyimba, on the other hand, dropped to 8th position. In table tennis world, number 1, Arena Sabalenka and Madison Keys will square off in Australian Open finals at Rod Laver Arena on Saturday. Sabalenka beat Paula Badosa to reach her 3rd straight final in Melbourne with straight sets win after 1 hour and 26 minutes. The 29-year-old Badosa secured her spot by defeating 2nd-seeded Iga Swiatek, a 5-time Grand Slam women's singles champion, in the semi-final. The match lasted 2 hours and 35 minutes, with Keys emerging victorious with a 5-7, 6-1, 7-6 result. Sabalenka is 1 win away from becoming the first woman since Swiss player Martina Hingis in 1997 to 1999 to clinch 3 consecutive Australian Open titles. And that's a wrap on Sport Update. I am Udoka Njoko.
Sports Update, brought to you by Corn Oil. Corn Oil, we go the extra mile.
And that one joins me now for the latest entertainment stories. It does look excited about the turn-up event at the Paris Fashion Week. What's up with that?
Well, a lot happened there. You trust Nigerian celebrities to always show up and show out. So yes, there's been conversations about that as well. And the Oscars finally announced their nominations list, and wow, people were shocked. But hey, we'll have all that details shortly after this.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
All right, now let's get right into it. Now, this year's Paris Fashion Week was truly unforgettable, with Nigerian celebrities stealing the spotlight in grand style. Now, the Prince, Temi Otedola, and Omale's, if you see Omale's hairdo, it was amazing. You know, they turned the heads and, you know, with their jaw-dropping ensemble of flawless draps and luxury fashion brands, and exciting excellence of prestigious global stage. Now, this held on January 21st, 2025, and the event also saw the significant presence of Afrobeat stars, you know, sparking conversations about the growing influence of African talent on the global fashion scene. Now, other people that were there, Davido, CK, we had St. John, we had Rema, Benson, and the likes. Now, last year, Wizkid, Burna Boy, and Tems also attended the same event. So, yes, we can say that people are showing up and showing out. But the concern here is that most of these stars, Felicity, they don't attend fashion shows here in Nigeria.
I know, is it as organized as the one they are going over there?
But come on.
Is it their place to make it tech or peng, if I'm to use the local language?
These are, if we have a Lagos Fashion Week here, for instance, we don't see Wizkid showing up. We don't see Omale coming in grand style.
Well, what could be behind that, though? Is there a particular reason, do you know?
Well, people are saying that because they want to identify with these big brands, so they have to show up dressed in their outfits to represent and say, hey, I support your brand, but we're supposed to be supporting our own.
In this case, I think they do enough in their capacities as celebrities to promote the Nigerian brand. So let's cut them some slack.
Okay, let's cut them some slack, as you say. Now, talking about the Oscars, because that happened, the announcements happened, and Emilia Perez gets 13 nominations, like and Wicked and The Brutalist follow with 10, and Honora by Mickey Madison leads the nominations as well. Now, for Best Lead Actress, Cynthia Erivo of The Wicked, and Best Supporting Actress, she was also Ariana Grande was also nominated in that category. Now, Wicked, being one of the most talked about movies right now, had Best Original Score, Best Sound, Best Film Editing, Best Makeup, Best Hairstyle, Best Production, Best Design, Best Visual. So many best categories for The Wicked, that. Come on.
Good work speaks for itself. Whether they will win is another conversation entirely. But I mean, a good work is a good work. It doesn't matter where it's at.
Now, a bit of conversation that happened as well was the fact that Denzel Washington was not even nominated for like Best Supporting Actor for The Gladiator 2. Come on, they were hoping.
But the guy has won plenty of awards. Don't you think so?
I like that.
He's a fantastic actor. Award or no award, it doesn't change the fact that he's an icon.
Yes. Well, I'm glad that you said he has won many awards, so he should just rest, Abby. He should rest.
Not really, not rest, but let's let this one go.
But anyways, that's all we have on entertainment tonight.
Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited. Entertainment news in association with Glow Unlimited.
And that's all on the news tonight. But before we go, let's take another look at some of our major stories. Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima joins world leaders to push for a $29 trillion economy for Africa by 2025. Nigeria's Minister of Power clears the air on 8 billion naira budget allocations as fund meant for provision of protective technology. We also brought you news that Gabon has fixed presidential election for April 12th as the Central African country hopes to end military rule. That's all. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and on YouTube. Many thanks for watching. Good night.